Before you spend your pennies, stop. Some 1-cent coins are extremely rare and worth serious money. From early wheat cents to modern mint errors, these coins are hiding in everyday change. Yours could be next. The 1985 United States 1-cent penny is one of those coins that most people would pass through their hands without a second thought. It's small, copper-colored, and usually tucked away in change jars, left on counters, or ignored altogether. But hidden within the production of this particular year are rare mistakes, minting errors, and special variations that have transformed an ordinary penny into a coin that collectors chase with passion and determination. While billions of 1985 pennies were minted, only a tiny fraction stand out, and those that do can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars when they reach the auction block. The 1985 penny belongs to the Lincoln Memorial Series, a design first introduced in 1959 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. On the obverse is the classic Victor David Brenner portrait of Lincoln, the design that has become one of the most recognized images on American coinage since 1909. On the reverse, Frank Gasparo's depiction of the Lincoln Memorial stands proudly, complete with the tiny statue of Lincoln visible inside if you look closely enough. By 1985, Americans were well familiar with this design. It had been around for over 2 decades and was minted by the billions each year. The Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint all struck pennies in 1985, producing circulation strikes as well as proof issues for collectors. At first glance, the 1985 penny doesn't seem unusual, but errors produced that year have become treasures. One of the most notable types is the double die error. On certain 1985 pennies, especially those struck in Philadelphia, the doubling can be seen on the date, on the motto "In God We Trust," or on Lincoln's profile. These double die coins are always exciting to collectors because the doubling was caused during the hubbing process, making it a true mint error rather than post-mint damage. Depending on the strength of the doubling and the condition of the coin, 1985 double die pennies have sold at auction for hundreds of dollars, and some in high mint state grades certified by PCGS or NGC have reached over $1. 500 off-center strikes are another dramatic error that appear on 1985 pennies. When the planchet isn't properly aligned with the dies, the result is a coin where part of the design is missing and part of the blank planchet is visible. If the off-center is only slight, maybe 5% or 10%, the value might not be huge, but when the off-center strike is more extreme, 30%, 40%, or even 50%, and the date is still visible, the coin's value increases dramatically. Some of the most eye-catching off-center 1985 pennies have brought in $500 to $1,200 at major auctions, proving that collectors love these dramatic visual errors. Broad strike errors also add value to certain 1985 pennies. In these cases, the coin is struck without the collar that normally holds it in place, causing the penny to spread out and lose its rim. While less dramatic than an off-center strike, broad strikes are still collectible, and many 1985 examples have sold in the $100 to $300 range depending on condition. Partial collar strikes, sometimes called railroad rim errors, also surface on 1985 cents, and while not as valuable, they still command a premium over face value. Wrong planchet errors are some of the most exciting finds from this year. A few 1985 pennies have been discovered struck on dime planchets, nickel planchets, or even foreign coin planchets, creating coins that don't look right from the moment you see them. These wrong planchet errors are incredibly rare and often sell for thousands of dollars. In fact, one notable 1985 penny struck on a dime planchet graded by a top service brought over $3,500 at auction because of how clean and unusual it was. Another struck on a foreign planchet sold for nearly $5,000, showing just how much collectors will pay for such unique pieces. Die cracks, die clashes, and cuds also appear on 1985 pennies. These are the smaller but still collectible types of errors. A cud, caused by a piece of the die breaking away, leaves a raised blob on the coin where the design should be, making each cud error unique. Die cracks can stretch across the coin, creating patterns that collectors sometimes give nicknames to. Die clashes, where the obverse and reverse dies hit each other without a planchet in between, leave ghost-like outlines of the opposite design imprinted on the coin. While these errors generally sell for lower amounts, ranging from $20 to a few $100s, they are still widely sought after, especially when bold and dramatic. The 1985 penny also has a special place in modern U.S. coinage history because it was struck during the copper-to-zinc transition period. In 1982, the mint switched from solid copper cents to copper-plated zinc cents because of rising copper prices. By 1985, all regular pennies were zinc with a thin copper coating, but collectors still pay close attention to the weights of coins from the mid-1980s in case transitional errors slipped through. While no verified full copper 1985 cents have surfaced, the possibility keeps collectors weighing and examining pennies from this year. If one were ever authenticated, it could easily fetch tens of thousands of dollars at auction. Auction history has made it clear that 1985 pennies, while ordinary at first glance, can bring in extraordinary sums when errors are involved. Off-center examples with dramatic misalignments and visible dates have brought $800 to $1,200. Wrong planchet errors have pushed past $3,000, and certain double die examples in high mint state condition have reached well over $1,500. Proof 1985 pennies struck at the San Francisco Mint with errors are also extremely collectible, with cameo or deep cameo proof error coins sometimes selling for $500 to $2,000. These numbers highlight just how much collectors value uniqueness, even in a year where billions of ordinary coins were made. What makes the 1985 penny so fascinating is the contrast between the ordinary and the extraordinary. For most people, this coin is just a cent, passed around without care or thought. But for the collector, it represents the thrill of the hunt. The idea that in everyday change, a tiny mistake could unlock a fortune. Imagine the person who one day notices that the Lincoln penny in their pocket is missing half the design, or looks smaller, or shows doubling on the lettering. That person may not realize it at first, but what they're holding could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. These are the stories that keep collectors digging through rolls, searching pocket change, and scouring coin shows for hidden gems. The 1985 penny stands as proof that modern coins are far from boring. While older coins like wheat pennies and Indian head cents get much attention, even coins from the 1980s can carry tremendous value when errors are involved. Collectors know that minting is a precise science, but with billions of coins struck each year, mistakes will happen. It is those mistakes that turn everyday cents into treasures. So the next time you see a 1985 penny, don't dismiss it. Look closely at the details. Check the lettering, the date, the edges, and even the color. Because while nearly every one of those billions of pennies is worth only 1 cent, a rare error from that year has already proven that it can command hundreds, thousands, and in some rare cases even more at auction. It's the perfect reminder that value is often hidden in plain sight, waiting for the keen eye of a collector to discover it. The 2001 United States 1-cent penny might not immediately stand out to most people. After all, it's just 1 cent, the smallest denomination of American currency, and by 2001 billions of these coins were struck and circulated nationwide. They were used in cash registers, given as change at grocery stores, and tossed into jars, glove compartments, and couch cushions. To many, it's a coin so common that it hardly earns a second glance. But as with many years in the Lincoln Memorial Cent series, hidden treasures can exist within the ordinary, and the 2001 penny has proven that it carries its share of fascinating errors and varieties that make collectors stop, examine, and sometimes bid large sums of money to own a piece of minting history. The 2001 penny still carried the iconic design that had been used since 1959. On the obverse side, Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln remained as strong as ever, showing the 16th president in profile with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the year of mintage. On the reverse side, Frank Gasparo's depiction of the Lincoln Memorial still stood proudly in Washington, D.C., symbolizing strength and honoring Lincoln's legacy. The detail of the statue of Lincoln inside the memorial was tiny but visible under magnification, making this design one of the most detailed ever to appear on a U.S. coin. By 2001, pennies were no longer made of solid copper as they had been in earlier decades. Since 1982, the U.S. Mint had switched to a copper-plated zinc composition. The coins were 97.5% zinc and just 2.5% copper, a change that allowed the mint to save millions in production costs. While the design remained unchanged, the new composition sometimes caused striking differences, particularly in the way errors appeared. The Philadelphia and Denver mints struck billions of these pennies in 2001, and the San Francisco Mint produced proof coins for collectors. Yet within this enormous mintage, mint errors slipped through, errors that would make certain coins extremely valuable today. One of the most popular and sought-after errors on 2001 pennies are off-center strikes. When the blank planchet isn't seated properly between the dies, the coin is struck off-center, leaving part of the design missing and exposing blank space on the coin. Off-center strikes can range from barely noticeable to extremely dramatic, where nearly half of the coin is blank. The most valuable examples are those where the strike is extreme yet the date is still fully visible. Collectors prize these, and some 2001 off-center pennies with dramatic misalignments have sold for hundreds and even over $1,000 at auction, especially in higher mint state grades. Broad strikes are another error type collectors have documented on 2001 pennies. A broad strike happens when the collar that normally holds the coin in place during striking malfunctions or is missing. This causes the coin to spread out wider than normal with no defined rim. These errors are easily noticeable because the coin looks bloated compared to a standard cent depending on condition and eye appeal. Broad strike 2001 pennies can bring in anywhere from $50 to several $100s in auctions or private sales. Double die errors always spark excitement among collectors, and 2001 saw its share. A double die happens during the die-making process, and the result is doubling visible on the coin's features, such as the lettering, the date, or Lincoln's profile. For 2001 pennies, doubling can sometimes be spotted on the inscriptions "Liberty" or "In God We Trust." While these double dies are not as dramatic as some famous years, they are still highly collectible. Examples certified in mint state have sold for several $100s, with particularly strong double dies fetching close to $1,000 in the right conditions. Wrong planchet errors are perhaps the most dramatic and valuable of the 2001 penny mistakes. In rare cases, a penny was struck on a planchet meant for another coin, such as a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin planchet that accidentally entered the press. These errors are striking because the coin looks completely wrong in size, weight, and sometimes color. A 2001 penny struck on a dime planchet, for instance, would appear smaller and lighter than normal, with parts of the design cut off. Such mistakes are incredibly rare and can bring thousands of dollars at auction. Collectors have paid between $2,000 and $5,000 for these wrong planchet errors, making them among the most sought-after 2001 penny finds. Die cracks and die chips are smaller but still collectible errors seen on 2001 pennies. Die cracks appear as raised lines on the coin, caused by the die beginning to fracture. Die chips, on the other hand, look like small raised blobs on the surface of the coin, often around lettering or design features. These errors might not bring in as much as off-centers or wrong planchets, but they still sell for premiums, especially if the cracks or chips are large and dramatic. Collectors often enjoy these smaller errors because each one is unique, like a fingerprint of the minting process. Another exciting category is proof errors from the San Francisco Mint. Proof coins are supposed to be the highest quality examples, struck with polished dies and planchets for collectors. But occasionally, errors still slip through. Proof pennies with striking issues, off-centers, or double strikes are highly desirable. A 2001 proof penny with a visible error can sell for hundreds, and in some cases over $1,000, particularly if it has deep cameo contrast and is certified by PCGS or NGC. Auction history has shown how much collectors value these unusual coins. A 2001 penny with a dramatic off-center strike once sold for over $900. A wrong planchet error from the same year fetched nearly $3,500 because it was so clean and well-preserved. Even more standard errors like broad strikes or partial collar strikes have sold for $100 to $300 depending on condition. These aren't just pennies anymore. They've transformed into collectors' treasures that tell stories about the minting process, human error, and the fascinating world of numismatics. What makes the 2001 penny so engaging is how it reminds us that even the most modern and ordinary coins can hold surprises. Most people overlook pennies, letting them sit unused or piling them into jars. Yet among those billions of coins, a few special pieces stand out, coins that carry minting errors no one expected. These are the coins that end up in auctions, that collectors spend years searching for, and that can turn a single cent into a payday worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Collectors today know that it's worth taking the time to look closely at every coin, even the most common. The 2001 penny proves this point perfectly. For the average person, it's worth exactly 1 cent. But for the collector who spots an error, an off-center strike, a dramatic double die, or a wrong planchet, the story changes completely. Suddenly, that penny is no longer a piece of everyday change. It becomes a key to history, a one-of-a-kind object, and sometimes a coin worth thousands of dollars in the right hands. The 2001 penny is an example of how value hides in plain sight. It's a coin that reminds us to look carefully, to treasure the details, and to remember that even the smallest denomination in our currency can carry a big story. Whether it's tucked away in a proof set, found in circulation, or uncovered in a coin roll search, the 2001 penny offers a lesson every collector understands. Never underestimate a coin because of its face value, because sometimes the most unexpected pieces end up being the most valuable. The 2010 United States 1-cent penny is a fascinating piece in the Lincoln cent series, a coin that many people might think of as just another ordinary penny, but that, in the world of numismatics, carries a deeper story. By 2010, the penny had already gone through more than a century of history since its debut in 1909 with Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse. But while most of these small copper-plated zinc coins slip through our hands unnoticed, a few from 2010 hold rare minting errors that transform them into highly desirable collectibles. For coin enthusiasts, these coins prove that even in the modern age of mass production and advanced minting technology, mistakes still happen, and those mistakes can turn a coin worth 1 cent into a treasure worth hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars at auction. To understand the 2010 penny, you need to look at the design and the period it represents. The obverse continued to display Lincoln's portrait, which by this time had become one of the most recognized images in American coinage. The inscriptions "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 2010 are present, as always. The reverse, however, was fairly new in 2010. It featured the Union Shield design, introduced in 2010 to replace the Lincoln Memorial reverse that had been used since 1959. This design by Lyndall Bass shows a shield with 13 vertical stripes, representing the original states joined under a single banner inscribed with E Pluribus Unum. The Union Shield symbolizes strength and unity, and it marked a major shift in the penny's appearance. This change alone makes the 2010 penny historically significant. It was the first year of a brand new reverse design that would carry forward into the future. Even though the mint produces billions of pennies each year, errors and varieties still slip through. The 2010 penny has been documented with several kinds of striking mistakes, each one creating a unique collectible. Among the most dramatic are off-center strikes. When a blank planchet isn't properly aligned between the dies during striking, the design lands partially off the coin, leaving part of the surface blank. The more off-center the strike while still showing the full date, the more valuable the coin becomes. Some 2010 pennies with extreme off-center errors have sold for hundreds of dollars, especially in mint state condition. Another valuable error type for 2010 pennies is broad strikes. These occur when the retaining collar, which normally holds the coin in place during striking, malfunctions or is missing. Without the collar, the coin spreads out wider than normal, creating a distorted appearance without the usual raised rim. Collectors love broad strikes because they're dramatic and obvious, and 2010 broad strike pennies can bring $50 to several $100s, depending on how extreme the error is and the condition of the coin. Double dies are another exciting category. A double die happens during the die-making process, when the hub impresses the design onto the die more than once at a slightly different angle. The result is doubling that shows up on the coin's features, letters, numbers, or even Lincoln's profile. For 2010 pennies, some collectors have reported minor doubling visible on the Union Shield or the inscriptions. While not as famous as other double die years, any double die penny can sell for strong premiums, and certified examples in mint state can bring several $100s or more at auction. Wrong planchet errors are the rarest and most thrilling. Occasionally, a penny is struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, like a dime or nickel, or even on a foreign coin blank. These mistakes are so rare because of strict quality controls at the mint, but they do happen. A 2010 penny struck on a dime planchet, for example, would be smaller and lighter than a normal penny, and parts of the design would be cut off around the edges. Such spectacular errors can sell for thousands of dollars, sometimes fetching over $5,000 at auction, depending on condition and visibility of the date. Die cracks and die chips are another type of error that collectors enjoy finding. These appear when the die begins to wear or break, leaving raised lines or blobs of extra metal on the coin. A common location for die chips on pennies is in Lincoln's hair or around the lettering. While these errors are more common and not as valuable as dramatic striking errors, they can still sell for $20 to $100 depending on their size and prominence, especially if certified by a grading service. Auction history has shown just how valuable 2010 penny errors can be. A dramatic off-center strike from this year sold for close to $600, proving that collectors are eager to pay for modern mint mistakes. A 2010 penny struck on the wrong planchet fetched over $3,000 in a major auction, showing the incredible demand for such rarities. Even smaller errors like partial collar strikes or noticeable die chips have sold for $50 to $200, depending on their appearance and preservation. These aren't just random quirks. They're one-of-a-kind pieces that tell the story of how even advanced minting machinery can falter. What makes the 2010 penny even more special is that it marked a turning point in the Lincoln Cents history. With the Union Shield design beginning this year, every 2010 penny is already historically significant as the start of a new chapter. Add an error to that, and the coin becomes even more desirable. Collectors love first-year-of-issue coins, and when errors combine with that distinction, prices climb even higher. This all leads to an important reminder for collectors and casual coin hunters alike. Never overlook the penny. The 2010 penny shows that even the smallest and most common coin in circulation can carry big surprises. While most are only worth their face value, a handful with mint errors are worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, and auction results prove it time and time again. For the lucky person who finds one in circulation, it's like uncovering a hidden treasure in your pocket change. Every coin tells a story, and the 2010 penny's story is one of history, design change, and the fascinating unpredictability of minting errors. It's a coin that teaches us to pay attention, to look closer at the details, and to never assume that something ordinary can't be extraordinary. Whether it's an off-center strike, a wrong planchet, or a double die, the 2010 penny errors capture the imagination of collectors and remind us that even in modern minting, perfection is never guaranteed.